self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is a premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and Self-Storage Unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and happy Thursday to my self-storage industry people that are here with us today. Thank you for joining us for our first Self-Storage Unlocked of 2022. This one today is called Optimizing the Slower Season with Facility Upgrades. I'm today's host. My name is Jessica Johnson. For those that don't know me, I am the Vice President of the Storage Business Owners Alliance, better known as the SBOA. And as you saw by our video, the SBOA was created about 12 years ago by owners and operators that had a portfolio of facilities that saw an immediate need for smaller to mid-size owners and operators needing purchasing power that some of the larger organizations like the REITs were obtaining. So through our membership, which is free, we leverage and pre-vet and pre-negotiate deals with service vendors in the industry, many of which will be on the call with us here today. And again, that membership is free, so I would highly recommend if you're not a member of the SBOA to go ahead and do so. You can do that by visiting thesboa.com. There's a Join Now button where we ask you a few quick questions, and you can put your information there and we will be in contact with you. So I'm super excited about today because we're on our new virtual platform. We're going to be doing all of our future virtual events through this platform. So just want to walk you through a couple quick housekeeping items and help you get used to this new platform. So you can probably see over on the right tab, there's three tabs. There's chat, polls, and people. The chat area is where we're going to be posting all of the links for today. And the good thing is those links will be clickable links. So if you want to see the information from that link, you can literally just click the link in the chat area and it will take you outbound and open a new window and take you to that information. We also want to hear from you. So the chat functionality is where you can drop us a line and tell us your name and where you're from. You can ask questions for today's guest and our panelists. We've got a great group of people here today to talk to you about facility upgrades and CAPEX projects. So I would highly recommend and encourage you to participate with us and engage with us. The second one is the polls tab. So all of the polls are already up for today. So if you could just take a minute and click on the poll tab and answer some of those polls for us, I would highly appreciate it. And the reason we ask poll questions is because we want to get to know you better. The SBOA is here to be a resource for you in the industry and try to get you connected to the right partners, the right resources. If you need a feasibility study done, we have connections to the people in the industry that we know and trust that could do those type of items for you. So that's why we ask those questions, because we want to get to know you as owners and operators better, or if you're a vendor in the space, an investor, or someone just brand new looking to get into self-storage. Again, that's why we ask those questions. So if you could take a minute throughout today's session, jump over to the polls tab and answer those polls for us, I would appreciate it. The third tab is the people tab. That is everyone who's registered for today's event. If you see a green flashing light next to their name, that means that they are live here. But even if they aren't live here with us, you are able to click on each person's name and you can interact with them and network with them. You can send them a direct private message. You can try to schedule a one-on-one meeting. So if you hear from any of our partners that are with us today and they have a product or service that you're interested in, I would highly recommend looking their name up here and connecting with them so you can have a future conversation about the products and services that they offer. And then on the left navigation tab, you'll see the reception area, which is where you went before our stage went live. The reception area will have all of the links to the partner companies that are with us here today sponsoring, as well as connection information, the description of today's session, and things of that nature. So go ahead and check that out. In the expo area, that's another area for our partners that are with us today. That's their landing pages with all of their contact information, digital assets that you can download, like PDFs and brochures about their products and services, videos about their products and services, etc. So you can, again, go into the expo area and visit with each one of the participating sponsors for today to get more information about them. And our event sponsors for today are Blink Signs, Everbrite Coatings, and Janus International. And I'm going to show you a quick video from each of these sponsors, with the exception of Janus. My apologies, Janus. We had some technical difficulties, but we will send out that video to all of the attendees so they can see your great products and services. So, Alec, if you could roll that video, I'd appreciate it.
Are the doors at your storage facility faded, oxidized, discolored, and just old looking? Do they leave chalk on your customers' hands and belongings? Are you losing business to your competitors because your doors make your facility look old and outdated? Faded doors are a universal problem in the storage industry. The Everbrite restoration system is the smart choice in door restoration. Everbrite restores your door's original color and luster, making your doors look brand new again. Everbrite is a clear coating and will work on any color door. Everbrite is ready to use, with no complicated mixing, no masking or taping off the surrounding surfaces. Everbrite also protects metal buildings, signs, and gates against sun fading, salt air, acid rain, and other damaging elements. At $15 per large door, Everbrite is the economical answer to restoring your faded and oxidized doors, helping you attract new customers and protecting your investment.
Awesome. Thanks for rolling that for me, Alec. And you're going to get to meet some people from those companies here today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and introduce my panelists, this great group of people, some experts in the space that were going to help me with today's discussion. So my first guest is David.Alexander from Janus International. Hey, David, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, you're welcome. David, give us a rundown about who you are and what you do for Janus and what Janus does.
Sure. So first, I want to back up a little bit. I've had to make an audible at the last minute, and I'm doing this from my home. We had a COVID case at our office, and there's a noise in the background. That's my dog snoring. I apologize up front. It's not me.
Okay.
But anyway, so we started a new service division at Janus about a year ago. Janus has done a great job on the new construction and the large CAPEX type projects, but we hadn't really addressed the break fix or the smaller projects. And that's what we're doing now with our new division that we call Facilitate. So we're not just doing Janus type products, which are doors and hallways, but all types of repairs that owners might see at one of their facilities. So, I mean, we're right now fielding a plumbing call. We're working on some parking lots. We're doing roof repairs. We're doing building repairs. So just about anything you can think of that you might come across as an owner, we are set up to handle those types of requests.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that information with us. And I've got a bunch of questions to direct your way, and hopefully the audience will later today as well.
Great.
Awesome. My second guest is Jackie from Everbrite Coatings. Hey, Jackie.
Hey, Jess.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. For those that don't know, Jackie and I share the same birthday. So now you know, July 1st. We expect lots of birthday wishes on that day. Actually, we don't. We're getting older. We'd like to ignore it at this point, right, Jackie?
No.
Yeah, you're embracing it. You're embracing it. I love it. Well, Jackie, if you could give us a quick rundown of who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and what you do over at Everbrite and what Everbrite does, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so Everbrite's been in the self-storage industry for 25 years now. We've done door restoration. We take old faded chalky doors and make them look brand new with our Everbrite restoration system. It's a family business, and my role has been various. You heard my voice on the little intro video. This last year, I've actually spent a lot of time building out a contractor network so that we have contractors who can provide Everbrite services across the country now. And
Awesome.
So that's been my pet project for the last year.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And again, I've got a lot of questions headed your way for this conversation today. And my next guest is Steven Weber with Blink Signs. Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Glad to be on the call. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And anyone that's not met Steven in person, he's very hard to miss. Steven, how tall are you?
6'7".
Yeah.
6'7". So yeah, you won't miss me.
The first time I met Steven, I saw out of my peripheral vision walking down the corridor, the hallway in the vendor expo hall, this very tall man coming my way. And he's like, "Are you Jessica?" And I was like, I don't know if I should say yes or no. I'm kind of scared right now. But Steven, tell us who you are, what you do, how long you've been in the industry, and all about Blink Signs and your signage program and your swag program that you guys offer.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm Steve Weber. I'm the head of sales for Blink Signs, self-storage division. And we are really turning into your full branding solution. So first we started off as an exterior and interior signage company that takes care of the whole process from obviously design and estimate to permitting and installation. And now we've transformed into more of an on the interior side where we can do things like print, promo, and apparel. So really we're your full branding solution for anything you need for your facilities.
We love that. We love one-stop shop. So I can come get a sign from you, and I can get a uniform from you,
Absolutely.
Or some tchotchkes I want to give away to my customers that are good customers.
Business cards, unit numbers, anything. Yep, we can take care of it all.
Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, and thanks for joining us today. And again, I got a lot of signage questions coming your way. Signage is important. I mean, it's definitely a key visibility indicator if it's out on the roadway. So super important to have good looking and intact signs. Thanks, Steve. See you soon. And then my last guest, last but not least, this is one of my favorite director of operations out there in the self-storage industry. This is Tony Goff. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
From True Storage. So Tony, tell us a little bit about your history. You've been in the industry for a while. You're new over with True Storage, but they're kind of a newer group. Give me your background, how long you've been doing this, and then why you love doing this.
Yeah, this is going into my 9th year. But this is my first year overseeing operations for True Storage, and predominantly we develop new Class A storage facilities to be run by a third-party group, one of our favorite REITs, which is all of them. And then that's it, the simplest terms. So we're just growing and growing. So a big thing for us is going and refurbing and doing box conversions. And adding some more value to these areas that just, these boxes have been sitting there for a decade or so. So anything from a Kmart to an old shopping center, it doesn't matter. We'll slap a logo on there and bring storage to that area.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a huge focus on conversion projects in the space right now because, malls are a dying breed. Their end caps, big box retailers are going out of business. Kmart went bankrupt. There's grocery stores that are closing, and they are prime locations potentially for self-storage conversion. So that's really awesome that you guys that's your kind of like growth plan right now.
We love it. Everywhere is good for storage, though.
Yeah, I would agree. And Tony, give us a brief, tell me a little bit, you are certified through the SSA. Just kind of tell me a little bit about that program so our owners and operators and maybe managers that are on the call that don't know about that program might look into it and take advantage of it.
I think if you're looking for from an entry-level assistant to and up, that program is so important if you want to get into multi-site management, or really from the ground. I would say is just learning what metrics to look for specifically for storage. It is a fantastic program, and I try to tell as many people as possible, if you're looking to make this a career and you want a really good study guide, and on my 9th year I still carry the booklet in my bag. It's so important if you're trying to grow your people, especially in this beautiful industry that we have. Literally, there's so much information that it will prepare them. So it's really worth taking. Take it at your own speed. But the things that you'll learn from there, you really will understand how to have as many as you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what Tony's talking about is the Self-Storage Association, the National Self-Storage Association does a certified manager program. I'm putting the link to that for everyone in the chat area if they want to check that out to see about getting certified if you already aren't. So awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, Tony. I'm going to bring everybody back on screen here. And we're actually going to share a quick little PowerPoint because we're going to just kind of take it back to the basics a little bit before we jump in here. So Alec, go ahead and start clicking away on that. So the first question is, what is a capital expenditure? Who can I pick on in the group? And I don't expect anybody to read this, but Jackie, I'm going to pick on you. Just give us your synopsis for those out there that may not know what a capital expenditure is and that it is different than an operating expense.
Right. So your capital expenditures are your long-term expenditures, some of which you depreciate, some you don't, but really capital improvements to your facility or the facility itself. Whereas your operating expenses are things that happen on a regular basis. Your more maintenance expenses, those would be considered in your maintenance budget instead of your CAPEX budget.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to add anything to that? It was a pretty good description on what it is, right? Cool. All right, Alex, next slide. And then I'm just going to give you a couple quick examples of what those could be in self-storage. So you've got your security, you have your unit doors, you have your gate access potentially, you have your signage like we were talking about, your HVAC units, and there's other ones, your driveway, the paving, et cetera, technology. But those are just a few examples. Go ahead to the next slide, Alex. And then, it's really important, do you have a maintenance or CAPEX budget or even a reserve fund put in place? Because if you don't and you're not prepared for the unexpected and a natural disaster comes in, this is what your pocket's going to look like. You're going to have to start dipping into your income instead of your reserve fund or your budget that you had set aside. And we don't want this to happen to you. So we're going to talk about that. So my first question is going to go to you, Jackie, and Alec. You can pull this down because the last slide comes up later. How should owners, operators, and managers even go about evaluating their property and prioritizing some of these projects from a budgeting perspective of what needs to be done?
Yeah, so my background really is in finance, so I'm a huge believer in actually setting your budget. So setting a budget for CAPEX, setting a budget for maintenance and keeping them kind of separate. And then setting your priorities within your budget. So this would start, like, I love spreadsheets. I think Excel is absolutely magic. And so setting a spreadsheet that has your location, your project, the cost, the timeline, whether you can do it in-house or you need to hire a professional to come in and do the work. And if you have multiple properties, you can keep them all in the same spreadsheet. I actually have the spreadsheet. If anybody would like me to send it to them, I can do that. But I think that really keeping track of all the things in one place is very important because it's really easy to get sidetracked. Like if you see like your toilet busts or if you see your gates not working, like it's really easy to get sidetracked. So if you keep all track of all your projects that you'd like to do for the facility, whether it be maintenance or CAPEX, all in the same place, then you can kind of prioritize from that space and keeping everything in mind rather than forgetting, oh gosh, I forgot we were going to do that this year. And then taking time to walk your property both day and night, and taking a look at things you might not know, like lights that are out, doors that need fixing or replacing. Basically, if a door looks good on the outside, or if the door is working well mechanically, you can usually restore that door. But if the mechanics are wrong, if it doesn't slide up and down easily, then you definitely want to talk to the guys at Janus, get some new doors. And then taking a look at your maintenance team. Some people have district-wide maintenance teams. Some people have on-site maintenance people. And what are they qualified to do? So you want to look at whether they can actually do the work themselves, and you can save some labor costs, or if it's something that's above their pay grade, above their level of knowledge, that you need to hire out. And then how long the items take. So even if you have someone who's on site who is able to do the work, how long is it going to take them to do that work, and what else are they neglecting along the way? And then getting bids from outside professionals if needed, getting multiple bids. And then, like you just said, Jess, planning for contingencies is really important, because things don't always go as planned. You might start a project and come find out it's not going to work, and you have to totally redirect. So planning for those contingencies is also super important.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Anybody else have anything to say as it relates to budgeting and setting aside a type of reserve fund for CAPEX or facility upgrades?
I think Jackie did a great job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you definitely did. Now, I'll throw this out to everybody. For an ownership group, do you think it's better that they try to set aside like a set, and this is if their income and everything is maybe more stabilized, should they set aside like a set amount per month, or do you think it could be maybe a percentage that fluctuates depending upon what's going on within the current business at that time?
For us, fluctuate.
Okay. Sure. Explain why you take that method.
Each one of our sites is just so different, and we're starting to now have, I would call them like our kind of young Gen 1s are starting to catch up, and we have to just look at those a little bit differently. But we're also new, so we work with vendors from multiple states, so it just seems to be easier for us. And I'm sure once we get, because we're not in that stabilization period yet.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. Anybody else have anything there?
I agree with Tony. It's, accrue the expense as you expect it to incur. So that will help your people understand that when things should be done too, right? So if you're budgeting for landscape and you're putting money aside in January, they're going to say, well, we're not going to use that, and they may use it elsewhere. But if they can see the whole picture and know that come June, you've got a big chunk of landscape, and they can kind of plan and anticipate and won't use that money elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
You've got the two different budget categories. You can kind of play with them. Mm-hmm. You know, if you plan for some CAPEX projects and something else happens, you can pull that. You can be flexible with it. But I think if you start from nothing, then it's just chaos.
Yeah.
So I like having some kind of budget that, especially when you're acquiring, like Tony, you're acquiring new properties. You take a look at that property when you acquire it and know, okay, we want to do this, 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 and this. This is what it will cost, and how do we work that in the next few years as we are building up. So.
And to your point, we do also have a reserve at each, just in case. I do like basically a combo, I'd say, of all of it.
Yeah, I've heard statistics before where someone's repair and maintenance budget can sometimes almost mirror what they've put in a reserve fund, which is good because, then when the good thing I would say about self-storage is it's not like multifamily. It's not like, it's not an apartment where like when that person moves out of the apartment, you're potentially putting in new appliances, new carpet, you have to paint. Like there's continual maintenance that is happening on a more regular basis that you don't have that necessarily in self-storage like you do in multifamily, commercial office spaces, retail spaces. So you don't need a ton, but you definitely want to plan for it because it's just that golden rule of having like a nest egg, set aside for when the unexpected happens coming up. So now, Tony, tell me, you had said in a message between you and I that you guys are evaluating your projects per square foot. Can you go into that and kind of what some of those numbers may look like?
Yeah. So, I would say before here, definitely that 12 to 15 cents a square foot, where we push it a little bit more to the 20 cents is the type of flooring that we use that needs pretty, not regular repair, but definitely once a year we're replacing. We use waterproof commercial grade planking. So it looks, you want to set your things down in there. There is a cost to making them look that inviting. So those numbers are pretty accurate so far. So we have one property right now that's pushing the 4-year mark. So now we're starting to actually kind of work through exactly what we're talking about now.
Yeah, that's awesome. David, I'll throw this one to you. Can you, just for the audience that might not know how to maybe plan for this, when they're looking at like the major mechanicals, HVAC, their unit doors, et cetera, kind of walk me through what that formula is, where they're going to look at the life expectancy and they're going to kind of back it up to start creating what that reserve fund would maybe look like on a monthly basis.
Well, you kind of said it. So you need to know or anticipate the life expectancy of these components. And, you know, if it's, let's say it's 10 years, you know what a new unit's going to cost. HVAC is a great example. And just budget that amount per year. You probably want to overshoot it by 10%, 15%, because by the time you get there, it's going to be more. But I think that would be a fantastic way to do it. Just understand what the life expectancy of those components are and back into it. You have experts in all of those fields that can help you come up with those numbers and those expectations and the life cycle, and just back into the math.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Stephen, this one's more for you. You know, we can't avoid natural disasters, right? Hurricanes come, tornadoes come, hailstorms come. And, you know, with signage being higher up in the air, those are probably more likely to get damaged maybe than some of, you know, the lower items on the building. But even in those scenarios, you can have moving trucks that come in and ding your building, run through a door, et cetera. Kind of tell me, you know, how Blink signs, like how you guys would work with owners and operators that maybe weren't necessarily so planned for a natural disaster, and helping them kind of get through the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you don't want anything like that to happen, but in those situations, we have a really strong network of installers that we have, I would say, more or less seniority with, where, you know, if there are circumstances that come up like this, hey, you know, we can get someone out there quickly. Obviously, we have the facilities to help with things like getting banner rags up quickly. If, you know, the half of the face is ripped off, and getting someone there to safely take it down, put the banner up, things of that nature can really, obviously the situation's stressful, but it helps to mitigate it as much as possible. So yeah, we have the teams in place that can quickly, efficiently, at least manage that, and then get measurements, get things into fabrication, and obviously get you back to where you want to be with your signage as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, and tell the audience why signage is one of those critical components for potential tenants.
No, I mean, absolutely. It's the first thing when you're driving by, you know, you see the branding, you see the illumination, you know, obviously making sure that your sign is properly retrofitted. When you're kind of, we're talking about CAPEX things, that's a good thing to think about as well. Not only do I want my sign to illuminate as best as it can, but then when you properly retrofit a sign, it's also more efficient for you, which saves you money on that end as well. So obviously, it's one of the first things people see. It helps communicate what you want them to do when it comes to directional sign within a building. I talk with people all the time about those repeat conversations maybe your managers are having at the front desk about certain scenarios. Well, maybe a sign at a certain place within the building can communicate that with them so that your managers don't have to. So really, it just helps get people from where they need to be or want to be to the next spot as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and not only is, you know, having good signage in place, making sure that obviously the signage, especially if it's like kind of like a marquee sign, it's probably going to be lit, right? My favorite photo is a photo that says self-storage, and the store part of storage, those are out, so it says self-rage. So somebody's going to be, and listen, there's this place by my house, I don't remember the name of it, but it's this bash room where you dress up in like full body armor, and to get rage out, you like smash glasses and windows. It's a whole, so people are probably thinking it's not a self-storage facility. It's one of those self-rage places where I can go get some frustration out. So you always want to make sure, like, you know, the lighting is good within the signs too, and that every single letter in your name and logo is lit so you don't have one of those faux pas happening, something like that. So
yeah,
thank you for answering that. And again, the audience, if you guys have any questions for the panelists on the topics that we're talking about, enter those into the chat area. I'm going to jump over to the polls for a second real quick because people were answering the polls. I'm going to look at this. It looks like a lot. So one of the questions was, do you have a maintenance person or team who are able to complete the projects? Everybody said, no, I don't. 3 votes. So let's talk about that. Who'd like to take that on? Like, if you don't have people in place, kind of what the process would be looking like to go find the people that you could outsource to help you.
We have project managers that go to all of our states. One of our, I think the best parts of what we try to do when we're adding to these areas is it's all local vendors working in conjunction with, can't see it over here, but their little cubicles are on this side. And they work with and find through, I think it's called Contract Select. There's a couple third-party platforms they can use, and it seems to work really well for us. Plus everybody that we have, it's great to have the members that are running these projects are literally having meetings with me every week. So you know, they understand the message of what you're trying to do, but that's what's worked well for us. And we end up working with everybody. And, you know, we don't want to hire anybody in a state and kind of leave them there. We'd much rather have them fly out right from here.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
Tony, where do they find those? You said there's a Contract Select. So is that a self-storage industry specific program, or is there?
No, it's the second time I've seen a platform like this. But my guys use this one that they can go in and they can put the project details in, type the zip code in. Members on that will pop up, and it almost like they do bids. They just have to. They kind of select it and not vote, but they'll do like a bid select on it. Yeah. And then they get to go through and we'll see everybody that raised their hand essentially on there and goes, oh, I'll do the paving or I'll do the roof, and they can kind of assess from there. I can send that to you as well, or anybody. We just started using it, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, Tony, if you wouldn't mind sharing that link with us, and we'll send that out to all the attendees that are here today in case anyone's interested in taking a look at that. Here's a question from the audience. This is from Devin Walsh. How do you make sure your teams are responsive and available?
Well, you have to be responsible and available. That's what I found.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I think, you know, in order for your teams to be responsive and available, you have to make sure as their developer and leader that you're responsive and available as well. Set the precedent. So it's always worked for us. We're big on communication here. We like to talk. So.
No, that's a great suggestion, because I mean, leading by example is definitely a great way to get your people to be responsive. Anybody else have any thoughts there?
Yeah, when it comes to like getting out the site, because it can be tricky sometimes, right? We get calls from people saying, hey, we're about to acquire this facility. We're not there yet. Please don't go on site before X date. So it's kind of, for us, it's really over communicating and saying, hey, we have our crew ready to go out and do a site survey on X day. You know, is there a time? I mean, with COVID now, there's protocols. So we just, on our end, are just trying to communicate well in advance, and then just follow up and make sure, like, hey, we're going to be on site tomorrow, things of that nature, to make sure that we're doing everything we can. We're not hindering any closing of a facility or something like that. So that's what we do on our end.
Yeah, like operations as normal during the process of this. Yeah, for sure. And listen, I can testify to Blink signs and their responsiveness, not as it relates to signage, but we have bought business cards from you guys, swag from you guys. And I mean, you guys definitely do over communicate. I was getting emails and phone calls from your team if there was any type of delay, updates on our tracking number, because we did everything last minute. Sorry, Blink signs. But you know, we were shipping stuff out to SSA, and I literally gave these poor guys, like, I don't know, maybe a week lag time. I was very unfair, but they delivered, and they held my hand through every step of the process and over communicated on the expectations. So that's really appreciated on that side. Steve said, wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think we've got another, oh, nope, Devin just said over communicating. Got it. Thanks. So thank you for that answer, guys. David, I'm going to pass this one over to you. If you were an owner and operator and you were to guess, what do you think the biggest headache is for them in terms of service or maintenance. And the audience out there, owners and operators, I want to hear from you guys too. What is your biggest headache as it relates to service and maintenance? David, go ahead.
So I'm going to speculate what I think it is. Tony kind of has alluded to it already. I think finding the people to do the work is the biggest challenge. Not only finding a person, so maybe you can identify a company to do the work, but then making sure that they do what they say they're going to do, that they show up and they follow through. That's, as an outsider looking in, that seems to be the biggest issue that I'm seeing is, finding the talent, finding the personnel to actually perform and execute the work.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. What about, listen, everybody knows with COVID and everything, there's a lot of material shortage, or material prices are super inflated right now. How about as it relates to that?
Well, that's definitely an issue. I know we've had issues with complete doors, for example, components being out of stock and just not able to get them. But usually when it comes to a repair or a service and maintenance, there's something you can do. It may be a temporary solution, but usually there's something you can do to get you out of the woods until, the more permanent solution is available. But 99% of the time, there's something you can do to resolve the situation.
Anybody else?
I know as soon as we saw COVID coming, we purchased a lot of our base components to ensure that we didn't run out. And now we're hearing paint manufacturers having trouble getting paints. It takes 8 weeks, something like that, to get paints. So we really tried to play the cautious, okay, let's make sure we're ready for this. We saw what was coming, unfortunately. And here we are. So we were put in a good spot that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Way to plan ahead there. I think we froze, honestly. We didn't know what to expect. And knock on something, we are in a recession resilient industry, which I'm super fortunate for. I have a lot of friends. I came from the food industry, and man, oh man, the hurting and the beating that industry is taking, and small business owners, it's just really sad what's going on out there. And seems like it's not quite over yet with all these different variants coming out. I swore I would stop talking about COVID, but it came back. It is still here. It is still prevalent. But we, as citizens and humans, need to just keep trucking through it the best that we possibly can. So, David, I'm going to also tee this one up to you, and this is as it relates to security. And it's crazy we're going to have this conversation because I'm pretty close to Amy Amadeo. She's the executive director of the Arizona Self State Association. What were you going to tell me? Oh yeah, another birthday. See, this is why they're my homegirls. Jackie, Amy, and I all share the same birthday. So again, July 1st, I'll send my address out for those gift cards and gifts. I'm just kidding. But Amy called me because their state association show is in February, and she knows I'm connected pretty well and know a lot of speakers. And she said, do you have anybody that could speak for us on security? I said, yeah, I'm sure we could find somebody. And she ended up finding someone. But anyway, the long story is there is a huge uptick in theft in Arizona right now, especially as it relates to catalytic converters. And, when they're calling out and dispatching out the police, it's lowest on their priority list because it's a nonviolent crime. So, David, for you, this question is, what would you recommend that owners and operators are doing on their property as it relates to security?
So we've had to get involved with a couple of clients on security issues, and they're dealing with it in different ways. But you've got to harden your facility in whatever way makes the most sense to you. So with certain clients, that means raising the height of the fences that encapsulate the property. So number one, if you don't have a fence, I think that's a pretty important thing to have. But we're making those more robust, whether that means making it taller or going to a different type of material to make it more solid so that the bad guys can't get in from that perspective. Secondly, once you get in the property, there are a lot of things you can do with access control these days that limits who can be in what part of the building or what part of the property. That's very valuable if you have the ability to do that. So, if I have a unit in building A, I can't get in building B or building C. So, that's a big help. Then once you're within the property, also, there's things we can do to reinforce, say, the walls, the doors, things like that, to make them more impenetrable. I say impenetrable. I don't know that anything's truly impenetrable. So what you're doing is trying to slow them down as much as possible. But the more barriers you can provide, starting with the fence outside, getting into the building, then when getting into the units. So just the more layers, the slower you can make it for them. What's the joke? You don't have to outrun a bear. You just have to outrun the guy next to you. Your building doesn't have to be the most secure. It just needs to be more secure than the guy next to you. So
for sure.
Just those common sense things. Security cameras, almost a must these days. There's a lot of common sense things you can do. Lighting, making sure your property is well lit. Just make it a less attractive target. You got to think like the bad guys, really.
And there's lots of them out there, sadly, and they're getting, a thief is a thief is a thief, and they just get smarter and smarter and smarter. And it's not only like physical stuff that they could be stealing, they can steal technology related stuff. So cybersecurity is another layer to add in there from a technology perspective. Especially when you are hosting and holding tenant information like their driver's license number, their social security number, things of that nature. So it doesn't just go, on the outside of the building. It's what's happening on the inside through your, website, your online, rentals, reservations, et cetera, your e-leasing process, all of that. So, Jackie, this one's for you. So you were part of the SBOA's virtual conference that we had on November 3rd, and you did a really great presentation about curb appeal and how curb appeal can help keep your current tenants happy, and then how it also can help attract in new tenants. So walk us through some of those tactics and tricks that you have as it relates to curb appeal.
So I think it really goes back to taking a look kind of very objectively at your property. And even if you have to hire a third party, when you're a manager or you're an owner, you go into the property every single day, you don't see little things that go wrong. You just don't see things. Just like you don't see your kids grow up until you look back at pictures and go, oh my gosh, they're so big now. So you don't realize how bad things kind of can look. And so having really an objective eye, looking at your property from the outside is important. Like David mentioned, fixing lights, fixing your signs, fixing your gates, making sure everything looks really appealing, because people drive by and they make subconscious decisions about your property when they don't even need it yet. But then when they do need it, if your place doesn't look great, they're not even going to pay attention. They're never going to come to your place. So you need it looking its best outside all the time. But really curb appeal now is digital curb appeal. Everybody's looking at your facility from Google. So you want to make sure that your online listings are on point. You want to make sure that you have good pictures. Don't put pictures of ugly doors on your Google listing. Put really nice pictures of your facility. It has to look like your facility, of course, but put good pictures of your facility up, clean pictures. Make sure that all of your contact information is on there. If you've changed your COVID information, your hours or anything because of COVID, make sure that's on there. How people can get in, how people can lease. Make it as easy as possible, less friction for your customers or your potential customers to find your facility and think that it's the best, because that's really what it is now. And then taking all those outdoor, physical curb appeal projects and making sure that there's a place for them in your maintenance budget, and making those priorities and taking it back. And then anything that's larger, making sure that's part of your CAPEX budget as well.
Yeah, I always joke, and I think I've joked with you previously, there's a facility that's not even a half a mile down the road from my house, and I drive by it pretty much every day, and their doors are a good door is like a nice hunter green, but then as you see certain points of the facility and the property, there's some that are muted down to the level of a puke green color, because that owner's not taking care of their doors, or maybe he's going for an ombre look. I'm not quite sure, but and it's maybe because I'm in the industry, it really, really irritates me. But you have to think of it from the tenant perspective too. When I was in the food industry, we preached and preached and preached rotation and keeping cabinets full, because think of it, if you go into a gas station and you walk up to an empty cabinet, what's your first thought? That it's stale or expired, and I don't want to buy anything out of this cabinet because it doesn't look fresh. So same thing here on like a physical asset, to keep that in your mind that these are critical things to do. Anybody else have anything? Go ahead.
Right. It's all optics too, because if your place doesn't look nice and appealing from the outside, they're going to think it's not safe on the inside.
That is 100%
Going back
sure
to the security thing, they're not going to trust your facility if it looks run down.
Yeah, and you mentioned even making sure like the digital assets, like your Google My Business and your photos on Google. I think Alana Ross from storageauctions.com is actually on this webinar today. She when she'll go do visits within her local market and she'll check them out on Google first. And there was one that she chose not to go to because she said it looked like a crime scene and she did not feel comfortable going there. But I mean, so it doesn't just stop at the, like you said, at the physical property. There are the digital side too. Stephen, let's talk about like some of the signage stuff and even like the swag stuff, like uniforms. Like owners might not even be thinking like nice, fresh, clean uniforms. Like I don't want to walk in and talk to a property manager that's like in a stained or ripped up shirt, or if you tell me my unit number is 101, but the numbers aren't intact and I go and it says unit 11, but it's actually, like talk us through some of those things that they should be looking at too.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the brand experience, right? So, I mean, you could have the most beautiful signage in the world, and then you go to someone's website and it's janky and outdated, and they don't get to see that version of the physical building. They only see what's on the website. So really connecting all those things together to give the full brand experience is crucial. And it can be a challenge. I can only imagine. I mean, there's a lot on these owners' plates, but making sure that the little things like everyone has consistent business cards, or, they all are wearing the same type of clothing, similar, obviously doesn't be exact, but having your logo on there. And then, having phone numbers wherever you can, both on the exterior of the building or interior, for communication standpoint. So yeah, it's really having that together, cohesive with everything is just going to help with the confidence that people have in your business.
Yeah, for sure. I like that you bring up business cards because, let's face it, property managers, there's probably, there's some cyclical nature there of, turnover, I would say. I never want to be handed a business card that has like somebody's name with white out over it and their phone number and their email address, and like they've handwritten in the new property because come on, guys, business cards cost what, like a box of $250, $500, maybe $50, maybe. So it's like keeping even that stuff. I know it sucks to have to pay for it if maybe that person didn't last as long as you wanted them to, but it's all about appearance and they
have the confidence in their job, and it's only going to help the owner because they're out and about grocery shopping, whatever, and they have business cards on them, having conversations with friends, family. Hey, I need storage. So, they're another sales tool for you outside of their everyday job. And, if they're happy with their job, then they're obviously trying to get people into their facility. So that's just another way for them to help fill it up.
Yeah.
Easy.
Anybody else have anything else as it relates to curb appeal? Maybe talk about pavement. No one wants to hit a pothole in their car, right? So Tony, talk to me about that.
It's actually part of our ongoing CAPEX stuff for our couple properties that are moving into the few-year mark. And curb appeal is real. You have to have landscaping right. You need, when you walk up to the door, every one of our sites, I have never seen this many cameras ever. We have 2 full TV monitors with cameras on there because one, it helps the customer, and obviously it's going to help us if there's a problem. But yeah, I like David, you talked about fencing. We'll do the same thing where applicable, but you have to do all those things. It's just the climate that we're in now, especially the last couple of years. You just do. It doesn't matter what state you're in. I'm 10 minutes from our closest one, and we still have occasional issues there. But the property needs to match, again, like on the website as well. We are constantly working with marketing to update any changes that we make to the site so it matches that first glance, because you're going to go in here first, one of them, and we want everything to match. We want, again, landscaping, make sure your pavement looks great all the time. There is something that pops, and our ownership is really big on, actually, that's one of the first things to do is we would call Stephen first, get the signs going, and then we want to make sure we have a really nice, fresh paved, just anything with asphalt, sidewalks, the works. It's just, you want to invite people to store their things. That's why we do the bonus on the flooring in our stores as well. You want to be able to set your things on the ground. So it just encourage them to rent from you. So.
Yeah. I mean, it can even be like little stuff too, right? People spitting their gum out as they're walking into your office, getting stuff like that removed from your pavement. Cigarette butts. My fiance is a smoker, and my landscaping in my front yard seems to be his ashtray, and it drives me insane. So things like that, like little things that they can be doing, going out there, picking up the trash, making sure, you know, all of that is looking good and in good order too. So
just making sure that they have the option to throw that cigarette butt away. I mean, 1 out of every 3 is actually going to go in there, but at least it decreases there, and you're giving those options. So, but I hear you, because we have one in Bourne, Mass, that has airport bottles all over the place and cigarette butts constantly. So landscaping definitely has a different scope of work, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and think of it this way too. How many tenants, when they're moving out, maybe they moved out in the middle of the night, they didn't give you proper notice, and they're done with that mattress, or they're done with that bag of trash that they have been storing for 10 years, and they leave it right outside. It is critical to walk the property because of those reasons. And if you don't have maybe a physical manager there every day, because a lot of facilities are, you know, going a little more towards the unmanned side, your security and surveillance should be able to catch that kind of stuff, that you could see it and then be able to send somebody out there to clean it up.
And lighting to back up the cameras. It's well lit is so important. It's half the time. I know every one of us probably run into some problem where cameras work, but it was pitch black in front of the gate or in that back corner. So you have to light it up. It makes it a beacon of the area too. So the storage looks cool. You've seen those dusk, like right at dusk, pictures that they take, and it's just really cool. You can check it out on our website too. We've got a few of those. But
yeah, when my last unit that I rented was on the very, very end towards the back gate.
Yep.
Single female going there late at night by myself. If that thing wasn't properly lit, I can promise you I would not have been opening that door and getting my stuff out of there. I would have gotten my car and skirted right on out of there as quick as I could, because I'm a scaredy cat, and that would make me feel unsafe. So lighting is an important thing to keep up. And I mean, checking your bulbs, making sure your bulbs are in order, things of that nature, and having backup ones already at the facility where you're not, you know, you don't have any downtime. Always have maybe a few there ready to do replacements with. So awesome. I do have a question from the audience. This is from Devin Walsh again. What kind of compensation do you offer when maintenance issues affect tenants? When maintenance issues affect tenants, do you compensate your tenant in any way? Free month rent, reduced rent, free move-in boxes when they move out, anything like that you guys have heard of? Don't laugh at me, Jackie. I'm throwing all options out there. I don't know.
You're leaving. Here's some boxes.
Let me help you pack your stuff. You were late the past 3 months. I'm just kidding.
We don't do it now. I mean, but when I first started, it was big. If there was, you know, that, because that ultimately falls on us, not the tenant. Yeah. So not necessarily retail, but I definitely see helping out on rent, especially if they came in there that, you know, if you're promising until 10 p.m. or when I first started, it was like 24 hours. It was a disaster in most places. But if they come in and there was a maintenance issue that, especially, we shouldn't have to explain that we didn't do something or whichever. I don't know about a free month for a light bulb out, but
yeah,
you know, it just depends. I mean, if they were stuck there, you have to kind of shame on you for not making sure it was done, especially if you're monitoring that asset.
For sure. Anybody else?
Well, I mean, really, what's 1 month's rent for a really terrible Google review? You know, you want to make sure that you're taking care of people, because people are way more likely to go out and give you a bad Google review for someone just ignoring their needs or ignoring it. Where if you just step forward, we're so sorry that happened, here you go, you eat the 1 month and let them, you know, is there anything else we can do to resolve this situation for you? Or if we give you a month free, are we good? Then just make sure, you know, making sure.
Yeah, I agree. So we have a question from Jamie Fawcett. It says, this is a question that they want to ask the owners and operators that are here with us today. So Tony, that's coming from your side probably. and my side, because we used to own a portfolio of almost 100 facilities. We actually just sold the very last one a couple weeks ago. So we are facility free at this point, but that does not mean that we will be for much longer. Maybe we'll get some more in 2022. But the question is, there's many vendors that specialize in the storage industry. The storage industry has become more and more specialized over the years. And there's an advantage to using vendors that understand the specific needs of storage facilities. I mean, I could tell you from my perspective, I agree. You know, I'll tell you this, with the amount of energy and excitement around the storage industry and how well it's doing, there's, I would say, service providers that maybe this was not a focus of a channel for them, self-storage, but now they want to dip their toe in it from, you know, they think they can come up with new software, they think they can come up with a new product. I see that a lot, but I think those that live, eat, and breathe this industry as a vertical day in and day out are going to be a better bang for your buck from getting it right with a vendor the first time, rather than, because you have to figure if you go with somebody that maybe has not been doing this in this particular industry for very long, they could end up costing you more money in the long run by not doing it right the first time. Whereas somebody that specializes in it, they're going to get it right, you know, right out of the gate. So Tony, how about you?
I would, you know, first glance for me is Rapid Building Solutions, because they, you know, they not only will they build them, they own their own. They have their own brand. It's Your Storage Units. Plug for them. That Richie Webster and his team are fantastic, but they completely understand what we're trying to do, because they're doing it for us and themselves. So it's that's the first one that comes to mind. That's really, well, you've seen it. You know, I mean, he's active in the SSA as well, and it's just that's probably the number one for us this past year. That's really just understands what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to jump on that. First of all, hi to Jamie Fawcett. I hope you're doing well, Jamie. But I kind of learned this the hard way. So I came from a retail background, and as I came over to Janus, I thought, well, I've got all these vendors in my hip pocket that I've been using for years, and it'll be an easy transition just to use those same guys. Well, it didn't work out very well. Some of them have made the transition, but for the most part, it's a whole new vendor base. I mean, not to say those other guys can't do the work, but there are just nuances, I think, to every industry, storage being one of them, that if you're ingrained in retail, it's not the same fit. You're used to different things, and there are definitely unique things to storage that make storage vendors kind of specialized, and you want to try to use that and to take advantage of their expertise.
Yeah, I would agree. And for anyone out there that's maybe not familiar with the Storage Business Owners Alliance and what we do, like I said, we pre-vet, we pre-negotiate offers and deals with these vendors to help you get better buying power and gain economies of scale. And through that process, we're working with people that we know, like, and trust, that we've worked with previously or that have good reputations within the industry. So it's like that added layer, that added stamp of approval, like we've used them at our facilities before, or we've looked into using them. So you can always reach out to me if you have any type of questions as it relates to, you know, a particular vendor, what your pain point is, and see if we can get you connected to the right people first, versus you maybe relying on a Google search and trying to do vendor procurement on your own. That's what we specialize in at the SBOA. So you can always reach out to us. So we are sadly out of time. That was actually a really great session, really great information that everyone shared. Thank you all so much for attending today and speaking on behalf of today's event. I really appreciate it. For the audience, if you want to get in touch with anyone from today, Jackie at Everbrite Coatings, if you want to talk about door restoration, Stephen at Blink Signs, if you want to talk about, you know, you need new signage or you need business cards, uniforms, or David over at Janus. So gosh, you guys have so much going on, David. You've got Noki, you've got the mass portables, you've got the R3 program. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a lot. You've got Becco, you've got ACT now, you acquired GCBI. I mean, you guys are just like, you're doing what Storable's doing. You got a bunch.
Bubblegum next.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Before we conclude today, I just want to throw up here, Alec, if you could put on screen, Our next Self-Storage Unlocked is going to be live on Thursday, January 20th at 2 p.m. We are working on gathering some really great industry panelists for you, some of the experts, and we are going to talk all about the potential view of 2022, what we feel like is going to unfold this year in self-storage, and how to properly prepare and get yourselves ready as owners and operators. So again, thank you everyone for attending today. It was a great session. Always a pleasure to see each one of you. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to all of you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.